Good afternoon, Jeff Fritz here, New Windsor, Maryland. It's the 23rd, 25th. Today's June 25th. I've lost track of my days. June 25th, 2020. Just following up from the cover crop video we did the other day in my trials. I got another trial going on, and I'm kind of changing gears here. This has nothing to do with me selling a bag of seed or anything like that. It's just something that I wanted to try. So what better way to educate? I've told a couple people about it. They're interested in seeing it, so we're going to show it to you. So here's the backstory on it. In the soil health and regenerative agriculture movement that's kind of going on. That's kind of what I see. There's some folks out there talking about, we got to put cattle back on the land. We got to put cattle back on the land. So I thought, you know what, I want to try that. We have a small herd of beef cattle here on the home farm. And we bring them into housing in the wintertime when it gets real rough. And I wanted to be able to free choice them out on some pasture. So right out behind the buildings here at the farmstead, I put in a 12-acre cornfield last year. And after we shelled it off, we fenced it. I put an annual ryegrass and crimson clover cover crop in it. And I said, we're going to graze these cattle on this and see what happens. So that's the backstory to it. So I thought, you know, my chemical applicator commented to me about how nice this corn looked, and it does. It looks really nice. I'm really happy with it. We're it's planted the 15th of May. We're just about 800 GDUs. We're running in right there about the 8th collared leaf on these plants. Corn's in its fast growing stage. This has been resprayed. We've top dressed it. You can see we've got that's a little bit of, we use dry urea. We've got a little bit of a burn there, a few places, but really nice shape here. We've had some moisture lately, and we just wanted to take a look at it. I like the way this crop looks. So on the grazing side of it, when we grazed our cattle this winter in it, we basically did not manage it well, and we need to manage it better another season. But basically, we put cows on it and rode with it. And anybody that knows beef cattle know that they like to be out. Matter of fact, they spent most of their time out here over the winter, grazing on the little bit of cover that was there and the corn fodder. And Jeff, if you look down there in between the rows, you can see what we have left. And they got most of it. There's very little residue there. But there's a little bit there, and you can see we've had a damp day here today, humid, and you can see how the moisture's hanging right down in there. We're going to stick the shovel in the dirt. This is not a great shovel, and that cuts in there fairly easily. Now we're not in one of the spots. There are some spots here in this field where the cattle made their trails and whatever else, and those spots are absolutely hard. We had a little trouble with the planter in those couple spots, but it's not enough to worry about. But you can see how this comes apart here. Now, I don't know what this would look like if we were hot and dry, but you can see here we've got decaying roots down in that, and the soil's got a really nice lot of moisture in it, and it crumbles right up. I'm not going to say we don't have a little compaction from our cattle, and maybe a start of a little bit of a hard pan down in there, but overall I'm liking what I'm seeing. And you can see here the root mass in there, and we're in between rows. As a matter of fact, I believe we're actually in between last year's corn rows, so that's cover crop root right there. That's that annual ryegrass, and it's still there. It's still breaking down. It's releasing stuff. You can see this. It doesn't crumble quite as nicely as I'd like it to, but it does crumble up. Soil's got a super nice texture to it. So anyway, it's just kind of a little project here. My experience to this point is very good. We used a whole lot less bedding in our housing. We didn't feed as much feed at the bunk. Cows just didn't eat as heavy, and we kept them supplemented well there, so they kind of took care of themselves. and our cows were in excellent condition this spring. We calved out here before we moved them off onto a permanent grass pasture, and I don't know, but we've got the nicest group of calves this spring I think we've ever had, and I don't really attribute it to how they were managed through the winter here, but that may be some of it. But we try and do a good job with keeping our cattle well fed and giving them the nutrition that they need. And with cattle, the better nutrition, the more milk they make, the better the calves are. So the other thing we liked about this was our cows deposit the manure right out here for us. We actually had less manure to clean out of that shed. It was less upkeep through the winter, keeping the feed alley cleaned up. And those cattle did the work of the manure hauler. So, and we've had really a nice season so far in this cool season grass growing time, where grass really hasn't stopped growing a whole lot. It did early on when we got a cool spell in April. So we've kept good fresh grass into those cows and those calves. And so anyway, I know there's panning around here and standing from my viewpoint, we do have some variability in the plants. And so I don't think this is a perfect scenario, but at this stage of the game, I really like what I see. And this is nothing more than a, hey, this is what I'm doing. Hey, wee, look at me. And maybe to inspire, you know, some thought process. How we increased some efficiency in our brood cow herd, and the fact that we were able to keep them in good condition with actually less stored feed, and we actually sold the excess or most of it. So just out of curiosity, and I have no idea what I'm going to find, but I just want to dig this corn plant out and see what's going on with the roots. You know, are the roots going down through the soil profile? Are they hitting a hard spot and turning? Because that'll give us a clue as to what's going to happen later on. We'll tell you the root mass under this corn plant, or these two corn plants, is we're probably not going to get it all at this stage of the game, and it's probably going to be, should be fairly impressive out of the starter program that I'm running. So we run a little starter fertilizer in furrow concoction, and a lot of it's about root growth. And you can see here where we've got roots down, and we're running roots sideways out through that soil profile. And well, we may be in a hard spot here. Those roots aren't quite going exactly how I'd like to see them go, but I can show you that up here at the cotyledon, they didn't all end up in the seed trench V. They look like they're in the seed trench V, but they're down below planting depth. So that wasn't a planter issue as far as it being too heavy. This ground was in great shape. It was no-tilled. There you can see, there you can see the seed. It's a purple one. That's actually, this one actually is a refuge plant, because it's a double pro refuge in a bag hybrid. And you see, well, maybe that's not exactly what we would like to see. There's an impressive root structure under this plant, which will certainly help us with maybe a few sins here that's been committed. But there we have it. You can see how that root I pulled right on up, and that root there found, oh, I don't know, that's what, 7-8 inches, found its way down. That wasn't stuck way out here. That was down there. So anyway, I'm not afraid to show the ugly, and see, I just ripped that right off. But I mean, that plant was rooted, really rooted. So I like what I see here, and we'll just we're gonna follow up with this one, and the interesting side will be the yield. This corn may really look pretty rough on a hot day here in 3 weeks if we get a little dry, but that's all part of the learning process. And nothing beats a try but a failure. So anyway, got that's that. Anyway, there is now. I didn't find there's the earthworm activity is not maybe quite what I would like to see. We dug earlier in a place, didn't find any, and I'm not really seeing any here. There's some beetles and that kind of stuff here floating around, but and this soil type is I don't remember it off the top of my head, but this soil tends to dry faster than anywhere on the farm. And I don't exactly remember the soil type. It has a reddish tint, really. When I say I have a reddish tint in my soil, our farmers north and west of here around Tawnytown Union Bridge have a cow, because I don't know what red ground looks like, and I don't claim to have red ground, but it does have that reddish tint to it. It tends to dry out a little faster. So I'm interested to see how we yield out here this year. This corn will get another top dress here probably in a week, 10 days, when we get up about where we can't run through it, and we'll see what happens, and we'll try and follow up with it later on.